So this is a teaching for women, so you had your stitch off. So I wanted to do a video for you. You were doing a video on Isaiah 65, and I don't even know if you really understand what that means. It is a promise, right? Isaiah 65 and 66, when Jehovah renders his judgment, his fury upon the children of disobedience that walk after their own flesh, their lusts, the lusts of this world, the self-righteous Christians that are ignorant of Jehovah's righteousness and have established their own in Romans 10, that eat swine's flesh and broth of abominable things in their vessels, not keeping the Noah covenants, because the Noah covenants, one of the covenants of promise, is promise that he won't flood the earth again, but he's going to burn it. And those eating swine's flesh and broth of abominable things will be consumed with fire, Isaiah 66. That's a promise. Because we're still to eat clean. It was given to all mankind, made with mankind and all the animals. And we're supposed to keep the 10 Commandments. That's why his son told the rich man, in order for him to enter into life, he had to keep the commandments of God. That's what he bear record of his son, his testimony of his son in John 5. Verse 10, if you don't believe the testimony that Jehovah gave, the record that he bare of his son, you make him a liar. Deuteronomy 18:15 through 19 tells you what the testimony of his son was, is that Yeshua, who he would send in his name, Jehovah's salvation, would give us commandments that Jehovah would require of us. To love God, love neighbor, Deuteronomy chapter 6, to love God, to keep the 10 Commandments and teach our children them, and it will be our righteousness, and to love our neighbor, Leviticus 19:15 through 18, to do righteous judgment, judged by the righteousness of God, the 10 Commandments, not by self-righteousness, but the 10 Commandments, the righteousness of God. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's why I'm doing this video to you, because you have a filter on, you're bearing false witness, coveting a look that you don't have, you're showing your boobies. That's why I tagged you in the song that I put on my page here for Testament of Reuben women, because the world has corrupted, America has corrupted their women. They're not biblical women. They don't take heed to the warnings to women in the Bible. You're to be shamefaced. That means without makeup. The fallen angels taught the women in Enoch 8. The fallen angel Azazel taught the women how to adorn themselves, how to paint their face, so that the men would lust after them. Okay? And Testament of Reuben chapter 2. Gotta switch my earpieces out because that one's gonna die. Testament of Reuben chapter 2 tells you that women are evil, my children, and because they cannot force a man openly, they use wiles to seduce them, and they have a spirit of fornication when they do those things, when they paint their face and adorn themselves. That's why he tells them, instruct your wives not to adorn themselves and do these things. It is witchcraft, because women that use those wiles are reserved for eternal punishment. That's why Revelations 2:20, I believe it's through 24, tells you to repent from that Jezebel. Jezebel in 2 Kings painted her face and plaited her hair. She used wiles to manipulate men. She tried to manipulate them to not harm her right before they were going to throw her out the window, and then she was eaten by dogs. She was that Testament Reuben chapter 2 woman. She used wiles to seduce men. She caused his little ones to fornicate, to bow to the image of Baal. That's your Jeremiah 10 Christmas, your Jeremiah 7 Easter, Queen of Heaven. And when it talks about in Isaiah 65 that the houses that they build, no longer others will inhabit, that's because Isaiah 3 and 13, I can't remember which chapter it is, but the women rule over the men, and the children become their oppressors, and the houses that they build will be inhabited by other people, right? Because the world is ran by Jezebel and Ahab's. And that's the curse of Eve in Genesis. The curse of women, Eve desired to be like God. So he cursed her and said that the man would rule over her and she would desire the authority of her husband. That's the curse of Eve that women bear, that they have to overcome. That's why they're instructed to be obedient unto their husbands as unto the Lord in Ephesians 5. But women aren't obedient, are they? No, and they still use wiles to seduce and bend men to their will, just like you showing your cleavage throughout that whole video, showing your boobies off. The Messiah said, if a man looks at another woman with lust in his eyes, he's committed sin. Why are you trying to cause one of his little ones to stumble to lust after you by showing your boobies and putting a filter on, painting your face so you look more beautiful and seductive? It would be better for a millstone to be wrapped around your head and cast in the sea than what is going to come to you in Isaiah 3:13 if you don't repent from that. You want that attention? Jehovah gives you that attention in tribulation. You will be ravished, and the men will seek your life. Jezebel, and he will kill her children. And whoever tolerates that woman will go in the same bed of suffering. What happens on a bed? It's already written, the punishment to women is very severe. Isaiah 3:13, go read it. He will discover your secret parts. Your children will be dashed to pieces before your eyes. Your man will fall by the sword, and you will be ravished. Women are instructed in 1 Timothy chapter 2 to be shamefaced, without makeup, not adorning the outwards of themselves, but having a meek and quiet spirit, modest, doing the good works in Ephesians 2 that were before ordained that we should walk in. That's the covenants of promise, to eat clean and keep the 10 commandments, to love God and love neighbor, Deuteronomy 6, Leviticus 19. And women are not to usurp their authority over men. 2 Timothy 2, again, do not usurp your authority over men. You cannot teach men, but you can teach women and children. But if you don't even know the basic gospel of how to enter into life, if you're not keeping the 10 commandments, which I don't know if you're aware, you're breaking the 9th and 10th commandments. You're bearing false witness. You're coveting a look that you don't have. And you're causing men to lust after you by showing your boobies. That's not a biblical woman. You need to repent from that. So keep the 10 commandments, keep the Sabbath day, dawn Saturday to dawn Sunday. We're to keep it as Jehovah has commanded us to keep it. Deuteronomy 5, we're to remember it. Exodus 20, it is a perpetual covenant. Exodus 31, 16 through 18, his mark on his children. And it's dawn Saturday to dawn Sunday. Not the first day of the week. The sun rose on the Sabbath. That's why he's Lord of the Sabbath. Matthew 28, 1. In Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9, there remains a rest. That rest in the Strong's Concordance is Sabbath. There remains a Sabbath to the people of Jehovah. Don't take after those who failed to enter into it, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness. Because those that were disobedient, whose carcasses fell, could not enter into his rest for unbelief, because disobedience is unbelief, and the wrath of God comes to the children of disobedience. Isaiah 65 and 66. The self-righteous Christians that created their own commandments, who say, judge not or be judged, those that sanctify themselves in the gardens, eating swine's flesh and broth of abominable things. They cover with a covering, but not of Jehovah's Spirit, not with the 10 commandments, not with the covenants, that the law of the Spirit, that if you love him and keep his commandments, he will abide with you and send you that second comforter, the Spirit of truth, that will teach you all things in John 14 and Acts 5:32. They don't cover with that covering, with that spirit, but they cover with the spirit of error, their own self-righteousness. Don't drink, don't smoke, don't curse. This is why the publicans and the harlots enter into the kingdom first. Maybe you're one of the publicans or the harlots. I hope you hear this message and know that I'm loving you right now. I'm hoping you hear this message and repent, because I don't want you to have to go through the tribulation and what's written that is coming to women with the things that they're doing today. I'm glad you read Isaiah 65, because yes, he's going to create a new heaven and a new earth. with those that loved him and kept his commandments, because they desire a world where everybody keeps the 10 commandments. No one steals, murders, cheats, commit adultery, lie, covets their neighbor's wife, their neighbor's belongings. They don't take the Lord's name in vain. They don't blaspheme his name. They don't have other gods before Jehovah. They desire a new earth where all know him, keeping his commandments in 1 John 2, verse 3. That's going to be a beautiful world. So, read Revelations 22:14 through 16.